offered too much, and too many people were chasing her, driving her deeper into a very wooded area already. So the important thing, again, is to engage reputable charities that will help you, usually for free or next to nothing, right? They might want to cover their costs. That's it. Nobody should be making a big profit on such a horrible, vulnerable time in the family. Anyway, you guys, listen, don't forget to head to Rav's YouTube right now to check out the full premiere of the latest release by Ram artist DVS 7.0. Fables is now available for, and it's a good song, now available for downloads on iTunes. It's got all of us singing. Let's take it to #1. War Room is up next. You guys, get your little ebook, if you would, on what not to do, how not to do everything wrong when your pet goes missing. War Room is up next. Go boldly. Have a great weekend, you guys. We love you.
Deuces, y'all. Have a good weekend.
Over the past week, let's just say, more than 170 military targets in Iran have been hit. I guess really over the matter of just 2 days. When you see the target list from these U.S. strikes this week, what does that indicate to you about the intent, the message that the United States is trying to send?
Hey, Kate, always good to be back with you. And that gets right to the point, right? The volatility in the markets you just discussed are tied to this conflict in the Middle East. And these strikes that the U.S. did over the past 2 days, they said very directly, and CENTCOM also said, the CENTCOM commander, the same thing, that these strikes were struck in a direct response to Iran attacking oil tankers that were moving through the Straits of Hormuz. And the second thing that's been made real clear by the target list you just described, these are air defense sites, coastal surveillance sites, storage areas for missiles and drones, small boats that are used to harass ships in the Straits. These targets were made to specifically go after Iran's capability to hold that Straits of Hormuz hostage. What's interesting is what wasn't attacked. They didn't go after leadership. As you know, Khamenei's funeral has been this week. They haven't gone after leadership. They haven't gone after, more wider infrastructure in Iran. So the U.S. was basically saying, no, you don't control the Straits, Iran. These Straits are still open, sure, and they're not going to go through the route that you want them to go through. They're going to continue to go through the route that's close to Omani's waters that was just described.
Titled, MAGA's Birthright Meltdown is in full effect. You wrote about why the MAGA base is so upset about the Supreme Court ruling to uphold birthright citizenship. Parts of the right still posture as patriots, but they have imagined a different kind of patriotism, one that loves the country but scorns its creed. They, like Musk on July 4th, reject the classical liberal founding, or at least de-emphasize its importance compared with the ancestral lineage of its citizens. And if America isn't rooted in its creed, and if certain classes of citizens have a superior claim to their American identity than other citizens, then it is a short trip to believing that the American government exists to serve only the favored class, the real Americans who make up, say, the MAGA base. In this formulation, true patriotism isn't the preservation of the creed, it's the preservation of the people. And once you see this distinction, MAGA's entire governing philosophy makes infinitely more sense.
Well, it also goes, David, against 250
Everything.
years of American history. It goes against the fact that we are a nation of immigrants, that our founders desperately were trying to figure out how to get more immigrants in. A lot of the people that were in the first Congress were immigrants, and so you have, and especially these latest creeds, which have just been so disingenuous, so dishonest. Either that or they're just extraordinarily ignorant and stupid about American history. You had people melting down over a constitutional amendment that became part of the Constitution in 1868. And over 100 years of firmly established precedent. And then You take all of that ignorance, all of the brushing aside of everything that Ronald Reagan ever stood for, all of the brushing aside of what conservatives ever stood for, and the cherry on top was when they needed a striker to beat Belgium, Donald Trump and the whole MAGA right got involved and lectured us about not being against helping this striker who was only on the team because his mother from Britain couldn't fly home because she was too pregnant. He grew up in London, and yet he was an American because birthright citizenship. So they're for birthright citizenship when it serves their purposes. They're for immigration when it serves their purposes. They're against immigration when it does not.
For 47
How many Americans
years,
have they killed on U.S. soil in 47 years in the war that we
they have killed
them?
thousands of Americans. They have maimed American soldiers.
Yeah,
they have
which is
attacked
all
American
wrong.
allies, and they
But
have been
why have
at
our
war
soldiers been
with
over
the
there?
West for ever since this regime came to power. And it is their intention to build a nuclear weapon and use it on us and use it on Israel and use it on the West. That is their intention, and they state it every day.
No, they intend to just keep using the Strait of Hormuz. They have now learned that they can behave like a nuclear power without ever needing to be one. But okay, so like if we're going to keep going with this, what number of American troops are we willing to commit to keep going? And like, what's your number? Like, how many U.S. troops are you willing to expend to achieve your objectives? And what amount of money? Because like, we're not having that conversation, and we need to, because we've already spent $300 billion. We've already lost. Like,
what
those
amount
are the
of money am I
questions
willing to
we
expend
need to answer
to keep
those
the
are the
American people
guardrails
safe
we're talking about
from the
with
worst
Congress.
regime in the world? A fair amount.
Okay, Iran, nobody is like, first of all, Iran does not have a nuclear weapon. They don't want a nuclear weapon. And nobody is firing a nuke at a country that has 5,000 of them. You understand? Nobody is firing a nuclear weapon,
as Max knows,
at a country that has 5,000 of them.
You're arguing that there's some sort of a rational actor here. They're irrational people. It's pretty apparent.
Oh, I think they're very. I think.
David, listen. I'm sorry. We're going to have to do Faith on Friday right here, because let me tell you, the thing that I love about America, and that we're a nation, a creedal nation, is what I'm so drawn to about the gospel of Jesus Christ, and the fact that we grow up reading and understanding that the ground at the foot of Calvary is level and it's for everyone. And Jesus tells a parable to bring this point home, the parable of the workers, those who came early in the morning getting angry that those that came late at night working because they got paid the same. And it was Jesus' way of saying, hey, wait a second, what are you complaining about? If you are a believer in the gospel of Jesus Christ, it doesn't matter when you are a Christian. It's the same thing with America. My family, I think we've lived here about 400 years. You know what I love about that fact? I love about that fact that today, somewhere in America, somebody is raising their right hand and agreeing to that creed, and they're every bit as much of an American as me. Now, some people, that may freak some people out. For me, it reminds me of the gospel. It is an extraordinary expression of who we are as a nation, and I can't understand why there are people like J.D. Vance who hate that.
Well, you know who would agree with you, Joe, is James Madison. I mean, as I point out in my piece, in 1785, he's writing against a religious establishment in Virginia. And he talks about it, he says that religious establishment, this authoritarian top-down sort of Christian nationalism, would harm that policy, which he says is trying to attract people from all nations and all faiths, so that they'll add to the number and to the luster of our nation. And where does he root this argument for inclusion in this American dream? He roots it in his Christianity. He says that the establishment, that a contrary policy would diffuse the light of Christ. And so what we're talking about here is, Joe, exactly what what you were saying is, you know, we have a lot of arguments about the faith of the founders and is America founded as a Christian nation. But one of the reasons why we have been historically inclusive and historically open to people from all nations and all faiths is because of faith-based arguments from the founders, not unlike the one that you just made.
Well, I think we know now why J.D. Vance was sent out to go sell the MOU. And at the time, Marco Rubio was nowhere to be found. Like, if you remember, J.D. Vance was doing interview after interview after interview, going out and selling this deal. And Marco Rubio was like, what, DJing a wedding still or something? Like, he was nowhere to be found because, as we've now seen, Vance, I think, was set up to be, the fall guy for this. I think we can all agree that if Iran were to assassinate President Trump, that would be wrong, because it is wrong to assassinate leaders of sovereign nations, which is why we should have never assassinated the Ayatollah and replaced him with a younger version. But I don't think Iran wants to assassinate President Trump, because if they were to do that, that would create a rally around the flag effect for this war in the United States that we have not seen yet, and would almost 100% guarantee that the United States has no choice but to launch a full-on ground invasion of Iran, which is the one thing Iran does not want. They have figured out what we have not figured out, which is that this is an economic war. Okay, this war does not have a military solution. We've exhausted all the good military options. What Iran has figured out is war is about studying your opponent. And they've studied President Trump very well. And I think it was just last week, President Trump said, my biggest fear is being Herbert Hoover. I do not want to be the guy who crashes the U.S. stock market. And Iran has studied that. And what they've learned is the playbook is, it's a really nice stock market you've got there. It'd be a shame if anything happened to it.
Yeah. Friday, 10 July, year of our Lord 2026. A lot to get to, including voter integrity. I want to get to the trial first. But Caroline Sunshine, she went on economic war. This thing about, the Mossad has tipped off President Trump about a potential assassination attempt. It's laughable. Okay, just laughable. More bad. The same group. Let me get this right. The same group that completely miscalculated the situation in Iran about the people who supported the regime. And yes, let's be honest, they sold the president a bill of goods and the people around the president that bought it. In addition, they still haven't had any inquiry commission in Israel, no formal, because Netanyahu and the Mossad are blocking it, about their culpability, either incompetence, malfeasance, or I don't know, maybe even acknowledgement of October 7th. We got to get to the bottom of October 7th. If they've sucked us into this war, we need to know the inciting incident, how it all came about. But no, the Mossad now desperately trying to push, they're trying to assassinate the president. Isn't it very nice? It's going to get mad. Maybe we should go back and do a ground invasion. Not going to happen. Ridiculous. And Caroline Sunshine just said it right there, the magic words. It's an economic war. Scott, don't ever reinitiate the license for them to sell oil. Selling oil is how they mess with the U.S. dollar to break the petrodollar to the Chinese Communist Party, our mortal enemy. The main thing, as Captain Fennell says, and what we should always keep our eye on. Don't let the regime get cash. Don't let the Chinese get oil. Let's crush their currency. Let's go back to January of this year, when you brought the mullahs and the Ayatollah and the Revolutionary Guard. They were broken. You had millions of people in the streets to the fact they had to kill 40,000. Don't give them $6 billion to buy food. Starve them. We're at war. We got young men and women in harm's way all over the place. We just lost a tremendous Navy commander, helicopter pilot, died in the best years of his manhood, is dead because a helicopter went down. We care about American citizens. We care about the United States of America. We care about the American military. I don't give a tinker's damn about the whole rest of that corrupt group in the Persian Gulf, including the corrupt monarchs in UAE and Qatar and Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, all of it. Don't care about Israel and Tel Aviv. They're an independent nation. They don't want to be a vassal state. Then guess what? Put Keane in uniform, put Mark Levin in uniform, get Ted Cruz in uniform, give them all a tank column. One goes to Beirut, one goes to Damascus, the other goes to Tehran. We don't care. Go for it. Take out all your enemies and do it now. But don't embarrass yourself with, they're trying to kill him. They're trying to kill him. They're assassination. Yes, let's rally around the flag. You know what we should do now? Combat troops. Let's go. They're trying to kill the president. It's all a lie, all misrepresentation. And the track record of the Mossad and the intelligence we're getting, no, Seb Gorka, it's not exquisite intelligence. It's a debacle. This is why Pulte's in there, and hopefully Pulte stays long enough, not just to expose with John Solomon the stealing of the 2020 election by foreign powers in conjunction with progressive Democrats that hate this country, and the donors on Wall Street and the Silicon Valley oligarchs, all of them, a cabal to steal the election from the working class of this country, referred to as the deplorables. That would be the MAGA movement. Jim Hoft is going to be here, the great Gateway pundit, done amazing work we've covered over the years. They're about to present, and they're going to do it right here in the War Room. Also, there was a bombshell yesterday. Yes, there was. But also, the judge gave a little bombshell about when he's going to kind of conclude his thinking about all this. Wendy Patrick will join us. Birch Gold, the special runs out today. Take your phone out and text Bannon, Bannon, at 989898. Get to Philip Patrick and the team and do it today to talk to them about a qualifying purchase so that you can get your free 1-ounce silver round. It ain't a coin, it's a round. But talk to Philip Patrick and everybody, the Birch Gold guys. Do it today. Last day, July 10th. It runs out. Action, action, action. Wendy Patrick next.
The sacred order of the group chat is now in session. Ingrid, report.
Running on empty, brain fog, can't focus, and those sugar-loaded energy drinks? Sure, they spike you fast, then crash you hard. Fix it with Soldier Fuel, the official energy drink of real America's voice. Soldier Fuel was born in the military to solve a real problem. Troops were relying on sugary drinks that wreck performance, so they built a better option. Zero sugar and steady energy, powered by caffeine, taurine, and inositol, and extra B vitamins for clean energy and focus. No roller coaster crash. This isn't gas station hype. Soldier Fuel was built alongside the U.S. military and proven where it counts. Used by American soldiers and elite special operations.
This is really good.
And when you fuel up, you give back. 15% of profits go to pro-military charities. Scan the QR code, search for Soldier Fuel on Amazon, or go to buysoldierfuel.com and get an automatic 15% off your entire order. Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
Hi, my name's Paul Foyer. I'm 404 in the Getter Chat. I love rap for all the Getter, all the War Room Posse, and all of you guys. Love y'all. Bye. My name is Sandy Zeiss. Rav is the greatest for me because I live alone, and when I'm watching in the morning, have my coffee, I feel like I'm talking with family.
It's Stacy from Texas. I watch Real America's Voice because I need to learn, and I know I can get the truth through Rav. God bless everyone, and always love the children. Amen.
Okay, chapter 845 War Room. Go there right now. But they've saved the War Room Posse over $1 million already on Medicare, and they get you in the right program. So Colby and the team are there. It's 24 hours. Even if they don't, if it's after hours, they'll get right back to you. Please, just 845 War Room. It's totally free, and there are no obligations. You got nothing to lose. And I realize a lot of people are kind of, they're embarrassed maybe in the wrong program or about their Medicare, et cetera. Just call these folks. The overwhelming response we've gotten from the War on Posse is that they love this. This is a data company, not a health insurance company. It's a data company. But they go through all the different perturbations of Medicare, which is quite complicated. So just give them a call, 845-WAR-ROOM. Check it out. See what the experience is you have. But do it today. Don't delay on this. Wendy, Patrick. So they're all kind of revelation. Look, I'm just trying to absorb all this because I think it's quite complicated. And for the family, for Charlie, for his relatives, for his wife, the children, all of it, turning point, I got it. It's got to be done right. But it's also got to be done right for the nation. Charlie Kirk was one of the most important men in his generation. And a future, an unlimited future, and what he had built is extraordinary. And a future that might have included being president of the United States. I spent time with Charlie in the summer, and I'll give the full details of this later, but the summer, right before the bombing in the 12-day war, Charlie Kirk was and is an American hero. We can't have a grassy knoll. We can't have a Warren Commission. This has to be done. It has to be done right. Wendy Patrick. And I kept saying, I don't know how on 7 charges, and I'm not a lawyer, but that's what we got you, and you're doing a great job for us. You got Posto, you got everybody there, right? And I just kept saying, I don't know how they get through everything in 1 week or come to these decisions. Now, the judge, actually, one of the most important announcements I don't think people have picked up on. It should conclude today, but he ain't ruling today. He's not going to rule over the weekend, and he's not coming back Monday like we thought with a ruling. He's going to take his time. What has he told us he's going to do after it concludes today, the hearing today, ma'am?
Yeah, that's right, Steve. So we have one more witness to get through today, a defense witness. And then based on argument yesterday, the judge announced he was going to allow both sides to brief the issues and the admissibility of certain types of evidence, and that we would all come back together on September 1st at 10 a.m. Mountain Time for argument and for a ruling. Now, that's not good news for the Kirk family. And, it almost is a blessing it came up yesterday, so there's no false expectations today.
But hang on. Hang on. Why is it bad news for the Kirk family? They want to get to the bottom of this and do it in a systematic way so there's no questions. Why would you say it's a bad news for the Kirk family?
Because today would have been the closure that they would have needed. And all of the evidence that's been presented all week long would be fresh in everybody's mind. That is one of the downsides of waiting. Now, let me argue the other side of that. One of the upsides of waiting would give the judge more of an opportunity to create a record. But let's face it, they wanted things to be finally done, and they wanted to be able to talk about a trial date. I mean, part of what they were arguing all week long is transparency breeds trust. That is one of the reasons that there was such a push for as much evidence as possible to get into the court and get into the court of public opinion. In other words, be live.
They fought yesterday for this transparency trust, but that's the way you avoid a rush to judgment. What the judge is doing here is the complexity of what's happened this week of these chess moves and foundational elements, and is it going to be used in trial? 5 moves downrange when the trial starts. That's what this is a week. This is enormously complicated. I think the judge is only being judged for 50 days or something. Isn't it logical that he says, okay, there's so much complexity here, and we've had some bombshell revelations. However, I want to take some time. You guys are going to brief it, I guess, by written briefings over the month, the rest of July, the month of August. Then we're going to come back, and we're going to get in a court, and we're going to argue through those, and I will make my decisions then. Isn't that a logical progression?
But that wasn't what he said. That would have been, but that wasn't what he said. The way it came down yesterday was the prosecution said, hey, let's argue tomorrow. We're prepared. The defense said, we would like extra time to brief a number of issues. And then the prosecution came back and said, we're talking about a 6-week briefing schedule because they have to file the briefs. The prosecution, has to respond. We talked about this the other day. It's the paper back and forth. And the judge agreed to that because the last thing he wants to do is be seen as doing exactly that, insisting on a rush to judgment when the defense is plainly saying we need time to brief the issues. So that's what's going to happen between now and September 1st, upon which date he's going to be ready, not just to hear oral arguments from both sides, but to render his decision, which he probably has already arrived at, as to whether or not there's enough evidence to go to trial.
but he doesn't want to be appealed on this. Isn't the firing squad in Utah? Isn't one of the means of execution in a capital murder case a firing squad?
Firing squad and lethal injection are both available. That's true. A lot of people don't know that.
So you're arguing for, and look, I'm no fan of these guys, trust me, but you're arguing for this guy to stand up against the wall and take him out. The stakes are pretty high. That's why I think, and the stakes are high for people to make sure that it's fully developed. So I don't think another 6 weeks. Anyway, we'll see today. Let me ask you, here's another thing I don't understand. Why is the furry that they had this testimony and the Kirk family and the lawyers went out of their way to say, we want to hear it all. Why is he not a co-conspirator or an accomplice in this? In my own simple mind, when I watch this, I think this guy's like his partner, his buddy. Why is he not charged as a co-conspirator, or why is he not charged as an accomplice, ma'am?
Yeah, and that would be the first question you would ask, wouldn't you? How likely it is that your roommate, your lover, wouldn't know your intentions, wouldn't be so close to you, they would know what you're going to do the day that you went out and committed an assassination in broad daylight. We don't know the answer, Steve, because he was granted use immunity. In other words, the deal was that if he testified on video and told the truth, there's the catch, and told the truth, that he would not be prosecuted for anything related to this assassination. So if you watched the video, here he sat in a suit and tie, probably not his usual gaming attire, stiff and stilted, but very careful as to the answers he gave. His lawyer was in the room as well. He provided the testimony that not only authenticated that the defendant talked about the killing online and in social media, but also in a written note that he left for his roommate at the apartment, and then verbally in person the day after the shooting. Up to that point, we had not heard anything attributed directly to Ivan Robinson.
He talks about the guy crying, correct? He talked about the guy crying, and he gives a quote. I wish I hadn't done this, right? Is that what he's saying, the shooter? Well, if he had said one word to the guy beforehand, that maybe this is not the best thing we should do. Maybe we have a better use of our life than assassinating Charlie Kirk. It wouldn't have happened. I don't know why this guy's not. I don't know why the law enforcement, and to look at, is it these militias? I mean, do these guys just think this thing up and we're just going to go do this? Or you got these, and people understand these Antifa and these transgender militias are absolutely vicious. And so when the kid cries, or he testifies he cried after and said, I wish I hadn't have done it, and it's only a couple hours after the act itself, or the alleged, this guy's alleged being an assassin, it would seem like the smallest part of humanity, right, if they're lovers, if he had just said something, because he makes it like, he didn't know anything about it, or he didn't, he's totally against this, would have changed the mind, and Charlie Kirk would be with us today, correct?
Correct, no doubt. That is one of the most frustrating things about listening to this tape. And mind you, this is actually a redacted video. And part of the redactions were done for the same goal you mentioned earlier. Nobody wants to compromise the integrity of the conviction, especially not in a death penalty case where that may likely be the result as well. So for whatever reason, there was a series of redactions, not as many as we originally thought we were going to see. And that was good news for the Kirk family, but enough to where there are still these lingering questions. Now, that's not to say that by the time we get to trial, because remember, the redactions were to protect the jury pool from receiving information that might not be admissible at trial. When we get to trial, Steve, we may very well have more evidence, more unredacted evidence as to what exactly Tyler Robinson said.
How do you try this case in Utah? I don't even know how you try it in the United States, but how do you try this case in Utah, given the local news coverage of this? And this was almost like it's a grand jury. You're sitting as a grand jury. How possibly can you argue that you can actually do this without a tainted jury pool? Because look, people are going to go nuts if this guy, if this is fumbled somehow because of something that was done on a technicality, correct?
Well, that could be true, but Steve, I'm going to answer based on 30 years of doing this. You can do it if you select a jury the right way. Change of venue motions don't matter in an age of social media. You could move this case to the moon, Steve, and there'd be somebody that heard about it. But even if you try it in the jurisdiction where it happened, voir dire jury selection is such an extended process with such deep questioning that you are, in most cases, able to get men and women that take this very seriously. You're not going to find somebody that hasn't heard about the case. But that's not the litmus test. It's, can you put aside what you heard outside the courtroom, conspiracy theories included, and only judge the case based on the evidence in the courtroom? And I have to tell you, jurors act as checks and balances on each other in the deliberation room when somebody begins to talk about something that shouldn't be relevant or be considered. That is one of the most frequent notes that comes out, is you have to deliberate fairly.
Okay, 11 o'clock. So in 30-some minutes, we're going to go live back to Provo. And Wendy, you'll be with us all afternoon, and we'll see you back here at 5 when they probably take a break. 5 Eastern, when we'll get you back on. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you. Great coverage. Really want to thank Robin Parker Sig, wall to wall, gavel to gavel. Home title lock, another special commemorating the 250th birthday of the greatest nation on earth. They are giving you 25% off of a 2-year package of $1 million triple lock protection. Talk to Natalie Dominguez. HometitleLock.com/Steve. Go check it out today. Steve25. Talk to Natalie Dominguez about the combination of AI and cyber and how we can get to the through the rudimentary system we have in this country today to protect your title, so it monetizes your title. So every dream you ever have turns into a nightmare. Take care of it today.
You need a better, safer shower, but traditional remodels are not.
The world is full of fables, from Big Pharma's lies to gender confusion, atheism, and the fake news media. Enough is enough. From Real America's Music comes the powerful new single, Fables, by DVS 7.0 and Brett Rayo. This bold anthem exposes the lies of the enemy while pointing people to the life-changing truth of Jesus Christ. Pre-save Fables right now by scanning the QR code on your screen or search Fables on iTunes. Let's make this song #1.
No playing games, get off the fence. Let the truth change your countenance. Freedom from chains and bondages that had you a slave too long. Yeah, the trials did seem mountainous, but in Christ I put my confidence. With a little faith you can move continents. Keep your mind on heaven and truth prominent. Hey, yeah.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
This is Rashad from Boston, Massachusetts, and I love Real America's Voice. It is the best place for real news and content. Much love.
Hi, this is Becky from the Florida Panhandle, and I love watching Real America's Voice for the programming, the hosts, and my Rad Chat family.
This is Tim King, also known as USS Malik, and I love Real America's Voices for its like-minded programming and the chat. Love you guys.
On election integrity and voter fraud, I think we're coming to the culmination, or at least phase one of this next week. More about that on tomorrow's show and, of course, next week. So just stand by the ramparts. Not fixed bayonets yet. Getting close. But in the interim, I want to give a huge shout out. Jim Hoft, you're on. Hoft, you know you're one of my heroes because of everything you've been through. You're one of the original gangsters with Andrew Breitbart. They got this whole movement rolling, and you've gone through hell in keeping the Gateway Pundit open. They try to imprison you and bankrupt you, all of it. Not in addition to your health issues, but I'm talking about what they've been trying to do. But the day is the culmination. This is what it's about. The grassroots, the thing we got going for us, and this is what Mandami and these people are trying to copy. This is what Plattner tried to copy in Maine. They understand that grassroots engagement, that patriots engagement can change the country. Now, they're not looking for patriots. They're looking for anti-patriots, okay? But there's a lot of them out there since we've let in, I don't know, what does Bavino say, 100 million illegal aliens and tens of millions of quote-unquote legal aliens who don't have allegiance to this country. Joe Scarborough's preaching to me about the New Testament. As you know, anytime I want interpretation of the New Testament, the first thing I think of is Joe Scarborough. He's preaching to us about the creedal and the creedal nature, where they don't have allegiance to the United States of America. They have allegiance to change the United States of America. Hoft, what you guys have done the last 6 years is nothing short of magnificent. Talk to me today about what you're revealing. We got Patty McMurray on, we got Fani on from Trust the Vote, or Track the Vote. We've got your team. So tell me, give me the overview before I go to Patty and Fani.
Fantastic, Steve. Thank you. This is really exciting today. I came on your show back in September, and I announced that Yehuda Miller, an activist from New Jersey, had secured over 1 million documents from the 2020 election in Detroit, Michigan. Since that time, Patty and Fani took charge of the efforts to go through these ballots, these envelopes, the rest of the information that was secured, including, I believe we have QVF files, tapes, and the tapes are from each precinct in Detroit.
But hold it. I want to make sure people get the narrative here. This is what they called you, the biggest wingnut of all. You're out there yammering about Michigan. You're a kook. You're a wingnut. They're suing you for every different thing. But eventually, you got the receipts, right? After a long struggle. And this is what's so important about what happened in Fulton County. This is what's so important of what Pulte and John Solomon are looking at. The receipts are out there. Just good people have to get their hands on them. So you had a long struggle to get the receipts, and then you turned Patty and the team loose, correct?
Absolutely. And Patty managed over 100 volunteers in Michigan. They went through the envelopes, and that's what they're reporting on today. We have a huge announcement, and that is that they found over 26,000 absentee ballots that were counted illegally. And Patty's going to describe that. So this is just phase one of our efforts to look at this information from Detroit. But already 26,000 just from Detroit. It's really a huge development. We have the facts, we have the goods, we have the envelopes, we have the absentee copies of the absentee ballots, and so it's great that Patty and they work so hard. I can't tell you how many times I talked to Patty, and she's just exhausted.
Let me turn to Patty. This is exactly like Fulton County. This is exactly like all those patriots down there we've had on the show. These are people that have stood in the breach for years and years and years and years, and they've had no support whatsoever by the official Republican Party. Okay? They've had no support. These people, just like in Georgia, these are patriots that are not going to back down. This is what the American Revolution was about. There's every opportunity to quit. There's every opportunity to go back to your home and just do your own business. But they refused to do it 250 years ago, and that's why we got the greatest country in the world today. It's in Georgia and in Michigan. Patty, tell me about the extent of this and the scale of it, ma'am, of what you guys have done and these accomplishments. Put it in people's faces. Where are the candidates in Michigan talking about this? Rogers, if you want to win the Senate seat, you better get all over this. If you ignore this, then, dude, you're going to crash and burn. Patty McMurray.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Steve. This truly is a grassroots effort. We do have over 100 volunteers that have been pouring through documents that were obtained via a FOIA lawsuit. The city of Detroit and Wayne County originally rejected the FOIA request, so Yehuda sued them, won the lawsuit, and came back with almost 1 million documents from the election, from the 2020 Detroit election. I was a poll challenger there. Jim and I have reported extensively. We've broken almost every major story out of Detroit as it relates to the elections. And as you mentioned, we've been mocked and criticized for our efforts. Even though every single time we break a story, we always bring the receipts. In this case, we've really brought the receipts. And the beauty of this story is that the receipts came from the city of Detroit. So the evidence that we were working on was provided to us by the city of Detroit. And in the article, we go into a little bit more detail, but the thing that we've been primarily focused on since September, so this has been a 9 months long project, is looking at the absentee ballot envelopes. In the state of Michigan, you cannot vote absentee without an accompanying absentee ballot envelope. On the outside of the envelope, the voter has to sign the envelope and date it, and it has to be stamped by an official stamp at the clerk's office too. And then it also has to include the ballot number that's inside the envelope. So those are the key checkpoints: the signature on the envelope, and then the ballot number on the outside of the envelope that was written by the clerk's office has to match the ballot number that's inside the envelope. Otherwise, it's not a legitimate vote or ballot. So what we've discovered is that originally, when we got the envelopes from the FOIA demand, we discovered that we had, I think it was 155,000 envelopes. The reported number from the city of Detroit, the official reported number of absentee ballots that were counted was 174,384. So we already knew that we were working with a large deficit. What we didn't know is how large that number would be. I'm going to let Fonnie jump in and explain what he did.
Okay, I'm going to do it right now. 155,000 of the 155. How many, you guys went through by hand 100 volunteers? You guys are the greatest patriots I know. You went through by hand 155,000 absentee votes, ma'am?
Yeah, not just once, but multiple times. We had to make sure that our numbers were accurate. We were not going to release this report until we knew that those numbers were accurate. So 9 months later.
I need everybody to read the report, too. We're going to do more of this. I'm kind of jammed today because of the trial starting. But hang on, Patty. I just want to make sure I get the basic math. I'm a simple guy. The 155,000, you're telling me 26,000 of the 155 are not
actually
not legit.
26,901 is the actual number
of the 155.
That's correct. That's 15.43% of all the absentee envelopes.
It shows you how phony it is. They tried to crucify these people. These people have been at it for 6 freaking years. You'd think of the 100 volunteers, what else could they have done with their life? How could they have made money? No, they went and did this to prove the system is corrupt, and all these Democrats do is steal elections. If they can't steal it, they can't win. Fonnie, tell me about Track the Vote. What did you guys do?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Real America's Voice, for having me on here today. I'm incredibly honored to be working on this monumental project with Yehuda Miller, Patty McMurray, Gateway Pundit, and hundreds of patriotic Americans who love America, including myself and what she stands for. What we found was, obviously, that, like Patty was describing, a huge deficit at the get-go, at the macro high-level analysis, I call it. But not only that, first we got the scanned images. They came all in all kinds of orientations. Some of them were scanned sideways, upside down. Some of them were rejected or spoiled because, spoiled ballots is a thing, obviously. And some are scanned multiple times. So at the get-go, we were at a deficit. But we wanted to find out what further problems exist. For that to happen, we had to first sequence all those envelopes and then deduplicate them. And in order to get to the granular level of analysis at each record level to find, for example, if an address really exists or not, we built this simple, easy-to-use interface in checkmyvote.org, the website which originally I started 2021 to clean voter rolls, actually. We still do that. But anyway, the interface shows the envelope one at a time for a volunteer to key in the data that's present on the envelope, noting all sorts of ancillary data points as well, whether it's like, the ballot was signed or not, whether it was returned, what date it was returned, whether it was marked rejected or spoiled, whether it's a Yuokava. All these ancillary data points were also collected because those all play into the analysis here, because if a ballot is not signed, it shouldn't be counted really, right? That's what Patty means when she said illegal ballots, right? They should be signed. It should be returned before, after it was signed. Obviously, we have situations where it was actually returned before it was signed. How could that happen? So anyway, these are all like the minutiae of the observations. But not only did we actually key all this data for the 155,487 envelopes, we went a second pass and a third pass. The objective of getting all this data is to match with the addresses that are present in the qualified voter file of Michigan of December 2020. That's where all the granularity and the problems surfaced, because we found envelopes sent to addresses with no apartment number. When you have a huge apartment complex with hundreds of apartments, when there's no apartment number, how did this ballot get delivered to the individual? How did it get returned back? It doesn't make any sense. And thousands of hours were spent by these volunteers.
I'm gonna have you guys back on to go. I'm gonna have you guys back on to go through the details because the trial got to bounce. But let me ask you, business guy, organization. This is just not random one or two problems, right? When you look at this as a systems analyst, this is systemic, right? There's a massive issue here that, quite frankly, people on top of the system obviously know about, correct?
Absolutely. It's a systemic issue. It's not a onesie, twosie, like you said, 100%.
100%. Fani, where do people go to find out about Check the Vote, all your background, and your social media, sir?
Yes, sir. The website is checkmyvote.org. Checkmyvote.org. That's the main website. You can click on any of the states. There are 5 states I'm live in right now. 2 more states we're going to live in the next couple of weeks or right on next month. But at the bottom of the page is my X handle, @deluxe_cipher. It's PSYPHER. At the bottom of this page, you'll see my X handle that you could kind of use.
Okay.
People could use.
Perfect. We'll have you back on. Patty McMurray, where do people go? You got to read the article. Grace, Mo, Elizabeth, let's push it out. I need people to be force multipliers. Let's get this out into the ether. Where do people go for you, Patty McMurray?
I can be found on Patty Loves Truth on Twitter. And also, I will be continuing to expose all the results that we're finding in this investigation. And we don't want to just turn this over to the authorities. We want to expose what we find first, and then we'll turn it over to the authorities, because we don't want any of this information to be buried or hidden from the public.
Well, I'm going to make sure that Maine Justice hears about this right away, and you guys get your day in front of them. Patty McMurray, say thank you. You and Fani, tell everybody, all the 100. The Spartans had the 300.
Volunteers are amazing.
We got the one. The Spartans had the 300. We got the 100 up in Michigan. You guys are magnificent. I'm telling you, what you've done over the years, and to prove this today. These elections are there, and they're laughing at you. They're laughing at you because the Republican establishment doesn't have the balls to get into the fight and have the back of these patriots. Patty, thank you so much. Appreciate you, ma'am.
Thanks for having me.
I got Eric Metaxas next. Jim Hoff's going to stick around. I got a comment or two for Brother Hoff. One of the original gangsters of the Tea Party and the MAGA movement, next in the War Room.
Spread the word all through Hong Kong. We will fight till they're all gone. We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP.
Do you suffer in pain? Are you stiff and less flexible? Do you have trouble?
The world is full of fables, from Big Pharma's lies to gender confusion, atheism, and the fake news media. Enough is enough. From Real America's Music comes the powerful new single, Fables by DVS 7.0 and Brett Rayo. This bold anthem exposes the lies of the enemy while pointing people to the life-changing truth of Jesus Christ. Pre-save Fables right now by scanning the QR code on your screen or search Fables on iTunes. Let's make this song #1.
No playing games, get off the fence. Let the truth change your countenance. Freedom from chains and bondages that had you a slave too long. Yeah, the trials did seem mountainous, but in Christ I put my confidence. With a little faith you can move continents. Keep your mind on heaven and truth prominent. Hey, yeah.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shop. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
This is Rashad from Boston, Massachusetts, and I love Real America's Voice. It is the best place for real news and content. Much love.
Hi, this is Becky from the Florida Panhandle, and I love watching Real America's Voice for the programming, the hosts, and my Rad Chat family.
This is Tim King, also known as USS Malik, and I love Real America's Voices for its like-minded programming and the chat. Love you guys.
Jim Hoft, what you've done is nothing short of magnificent. The highest compliment I could give you is that both Andrew Breitbart and Charlie Kirk will be very proud of you and your team, because you epitomize the power and the necessity of the grassroots movement in this country. These are people, 100. The Spartans had 300. We got 100 in Michigan, and you've delivered a magnificent result. We're going to continue to push it. Jim, where do people go to continue to follow this on Gateway Pundit, sir?
Yeah, I hope everybody reads this article at thegatewaypundit.com. You can find us, of course, on X, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Getter, all the social media outlets. Gateway Pundit is our handle. So thank you so much, Steve. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we will make sure the appropriate authorities are all over this, Jim. That's one thing we will commit to you. Just magnificent work, and tell everybody just great. Love them.
Thank you, Steve.
Where would the country be without the grassroots movement? Where would the country be without American patriots putting their shoulder to the wheel? Metaxas, the book, yesterday, July 9th, 9 July, 1776. Where's General Washington, and what is he doing, sir?
Well, last I checked, July 9th, in New York City, where I live, I'm not there now, I'm in Las Vegas, but New York City, it's hard for us to imagine, down on Bowling Green, right, below Wall Street, that was the center. And Washington got a letter on July 8th from John Hancock with a copy of the Declaration of Independence, not the engrossed copy, the fancy one, but the copy. And he was commanded by John Hancock and Congress to have this read aloud to the troops. So at 6 p.m., July 9th, he has this document. We can't even imagine. What would it be like to hear the words of the Declaration of Independence for the first time in history? You've never heard these words before, declaring independence from King George III. This was like an atom bomb. You can't imagine what it was like for these troops mustered to hear these sacred words. And when they heard these words, we got to remember, Steve, a year before, nobody would dream of independence. Nobody, they just wanted their rights. Nobody would dream we're going to tear away from the British Empire. We're going to go it alone. This was a wild moment. If Thomas Paine had not written Common Sense 6 months earlier, it was a sea change. It's hard for us to imagine. But these men listening to this were so moved by it that a whole group of them decided, hey, we need to do something. So they go down to Bowling Green. They tear down the 4,000-pound, 15-foot-high equestrian statue of King George III, which they had put up. The New Yorkers had commissioned this statue in 1776. When the Stamp Act was repealed, they were so in love with King George III. 10 years later, they hate him and the monarchy so much, they tear it down. And I don't need to tell your audience, we're in a very similar battle today. The progressives, they are the royalists. They hate the idea of liberty. They hate the idea of our rights come from God. They say, shut up, your rights come from us, and we'll give them to you when we feel like it. We're in that battle right now. When you're talking about election integrity, when you're talking about open borders, when you're talking about the New York Times calling Trump's claim that the election was not on the up and up baseless. This isn't a news article. We are in a war right now, and I don't think I've told you. Barnes and Noble and the left have been trying to crush my book. If you do a search, you go to barnesandnoble.com and just type in the word I'm searching for, revolution. My book does not come up. It has been on the New York Times bestseller list 4 weeks in a row. Number 2, number 3, number 8, number 5, right at the top of the list. You can't find it in most bookstores. And when you try to search for it at bn.com, it doesn't even come up. Somebody told me that somebody at Barnes and Noble was angry that President Trump endorsed the book, and we thought, well, we'll screw you. We will shadow ban the book. So we're in this battle today for the hearts and the minds of your average American who simply doesn't know what we who listen to your show, what we already know. They don't know this, and that's why I want to get this book into the hands of mainstream America. I need people to go. I shamelessly ask your audience to please get a copy of the book, give it to somebody. I mean, they're trying to wipe this off so it's no longer on the New York Times list, so they can say, it's done. And, we got to do something. It's 4 weeks. It reads like a novel. Get one for yourself and one for a particularly young person in your life. They won't put it down. One more time, Eric, where do they go right now, and where do they go to find out where you're going to be talking? Well, today I'm speaking in Las Vegas at Freedom Fest. Tomorrow I go to Prestonwood Baptist Church in Dallas. I'm all over the country. I'll be in Maine the week after that. I'll be in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I'll be in L.A. Go to ericmetaxas.com. You can follow me there. You can get my book off of Amazon. And I say it shamelessly. I didn't think that my book would be in the middle of the battle. But if we don't get this version of the American story out to the mainstream, to the Americans who they're not sure which way they want to vote because they've been, force-fed this propaganda for 50 years about who we are. I got to tell you, we're in a battle. So I ask shamelessly your audience, please, if you can get the book, you got to keep it on the list. I knew this book was going to be huge. Go get it today. Eric, look forward to grab you tomorrow or Monday. It's great work. Thank you, sir. Revolution. Buy one for yourself, one for a loved one. Put it under your arm. Take it to the beach. People are going to go, that person's very smart. That's a big book. You start reading it, you'll be very smart. Let's go to Mike Lindell. Okay, here's what we're going to do. At the top there, we're going to go right to Provo, Utah, the courthouse. If it hasn't started, guess what? You're going to have a little bonus time with Stephen K. Bannon. Let's go ahead and play Mike Lindell.
Hello, War Room Posse. Hey, I can't be with you the next few days, so I wanted to get on here and tell you I'm going to extend that sale that only comes once every 250 years, the Made in the USA sale. That's right, our premium My Pillows, king size only $19.98, lowest price in history, queen size $18.98, standard $14.98. We have our My Pillow mattresses, the best mattresses you'll ever sleep on, 50% off. And by the way, the whole order ships for free right to your front door. Mattress toppers as low as $99.98. Then we have the bolster pillows, the body pillows, the go anywhere pillows, all of it on sale. Go to mypillow.com/war room. You're going to see another sale that collides with that, the Mega 2 sale. And then you're going to find the Giza Dream Sheets as low as $29.98. Our 6-piece My Towel sets, $39.98. You have kitchen towel sets on sale. You have everything for the kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, everywhere. Promo code War Room, free shipping on your entire order. You guys call 800-873-1062. Use the best promo code in history, promo code War Room.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to break. We're going to come back. We're either going to be in a courtroom in Provo, Utah with the Charlie Kirk last day wrap-up. Maybe pretty intense. Stick around. Or I'll be back to host for as long as we can host. So stick around. You're in the War Room. We're united, strong, and free.
Since 1941, the USO has stood beside the men and
The world is full of fables, from Big Pharma's lies to gender confusion, atheism, and the fake news media. Enough is enough. From Real America's Music comes the powerful new single, Fables by DVS 7.0 and Brett Rayo. This bold anthem exposes the lies of the enemy while pointing people to the life-changing truth of Jesus Christ. Pre-save Fables right now by scanning the QR code on your screen or search Fables on iTunes. Let's make this song #1.
No playing games, get off the fence. Let the truth change your countenance. Freedom from chains and bondages that had you a slave too long. Yeah, the trials that seem mountainous, but in Christ I put my confidence. With a little faith you can move continents. Keep your mind on heaven and truth prominent. Hey, yeah.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate to
of a dying regime. Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back. It's Friday, 10 July, year of Lord 2026. Momentarily, we'll go to Provo, Utah, to the Charlie Kirk, the fifth and final day of the evidentiary hearing. There's one more witness left. Of course, you heard that the judge said they're going to brief certain controversial issues. That means the briefings are by writing, and then I guess in September they're going to reconvene. Anyway, we'll get all of that worked out on the afternoon show. I think we'll dip in for it. And I want to thank Mo and Grace for doing a fantastic job yesterday. And we will do all that this afternoon, and maybe tomorrow talk about it. But it's going to be September decisions. Metaxas' book when you read it, and I want to tie Michigan, Georgia to Bowling Green. If you go to Manhattan to the financial district, all the way at the very tip, Battery Park, where the Battery is, and it's called the Battery for a reason because there was a battery there, and Bowling Green right next to it. When Washington read this, and what's ironic, he kind of started the war officially because it had been an unofficial. And as John Adams kept saying, we're in open combat in Lexington and Concord in the siege of Boston. There's a war. And dragging the cannons from Ticonderoga. We're at war. We're in a shooting war. And so what we need to do is declare that war. All the great thoughts and all of it that touch humanity and kind of what I call the preamble or the lead-in to the declaration of war. Because 2/3 of the document is a declaration of war against the crown, against commons and lords, and against the British Empire and the monopolistic power of the British East India Company and much more, all of it. It's a declaration of war. The first time I think a colony or colony of any scale had actually declared war, independence, because that's leading to war. And this is why this is called the War of Independence. And it's the three phases, the way I look at it. The three phases is phase one is the American Revolution, that whole transition of thinking and thought that led to the Continental Congress and to the Declaration itself, the committee, and Jefferson's thinking and Adams' thinking. But then you transition pretty quickly. Now you're in a formal war. You've formally declared war on the crown, of which they said, because you've gone back and forth, they've told you, hey, if you keep up this is treason. And treason, we're going to hang all you guys. This is why Franklin said it. The power of this is the great leaders and the men of the Enlightenment and the great thinkers and lawyers are magnificent in the setup and all the way through. But there's a time for deep thoughts and great thoughts to give purpose. Because remember, the three phases of war is part one, you have to take the high ground morally and intellectually and spiritually to give your troops, to give your people something to fight for, something to hang on to. What is it that we're doing here? What is it that we're fighting for? Phase two is to crush the enemy and to get to victory. Phase three is to then leave a smoking crater. Phase three is to fill said smoking crater with your values and your beliefs and your customs and your mores. That process. So they read it out loud on the 8th, and Hancock sent it down to Washington, or sent it up to Washington in New York, because New York is the strategic center. Now, here's what's very important. When he's gathering them on Bowling Green, and he's reading this to them, this very powerful words, particularly the fact that you've got this statue that's like Caesar, because it was based upon one of the great statues in Rome. So you've got, I think it's the statue of Hadrian, if I remember correctly. I think it was based upon that. You've got George III looking like a Roman emperor. And people had done this at the end of the French and Indian Wars because of, we won because we were still a British colony and these were British subjects. So you have all these British subjects right there and they're reading to it. And now, this is not in some vacuum. Like I said, you go to Manhattan, at the very tip, you've got the Battery next to Wall Street, right there, boom, Broadway. You're right there at the very tip, the Battery. And you've got Bowling Green right next to it. Well, what's going on in the biggest, greatest harbor in the world? 300 combat ships and auxiliaries and 32,000 combat troops and backups, including, I don't know what it was, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 Hessians, who were kind of these mythic savages. Like when Caesar tried to cross the Rhine and placate or subject or subdue the tribes in the German forest. Remember the opening scene in Gladiator? Think that, okay? You got these Hessians, you got these brothers that are not known for negotiation. They're known for having a long pike or a bayonet coming at you with a huge hat, scare the hell out of you, right? And all the legends about them. That's in the harbor looking at you. They've come. Here's what they think about your declaration of war. Oh, you're tough guys? This is what you're going to do? You're going to tell us we're the British Empire. We're the British Army and the Royal Navy. The Royal Navy, one of the greatest institutions ever created by man. You're going to tell us, you punks are going to sit there, John Adams. Who's John Adams? John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. And you guys are going to tell us what you're going to tell the king who by divine right rules our empire. You're going to tell us what you're going to do. In fact, you're going to tell us that you're just going to take this whole thing, this as far as you saw the clips we played from the madness of King George. They understood the magnificence of North America. Hell, they had just fought a war as part of a 100-year war. They just fought a war to take it from the frickin' French and to go into hoc to do it, of which they were trying to undo being in hoc by telling the colonies, hey, look, have a little something for the effort. It's, you guys are living there. You're getting the benefits from it. You got to throw something into the till. We need some money. We need some cash. We got to tax you. But the dispute really came down to who's in charge. And the British was telling you who's in charge. I got 300. They said it looked like a forest of masts out there. Think about how magnificent it did when we were there on Saturday. You had 50 or 60 tall ships from around the world. Look how stunning they look. That's 50. These had 300. And lots of them had cannon ready to be used to go up to Hudson and say, hey, we're going to cut this thing in two. We're going to cauterize Massachusetts because those guys are out of control. And we're going to have the more gentle people in Pennsylvania and in Virginia, in the middle Atlantic states. We can talk reason to them, and you keep these hotheads down south. They're out of the program anyway. Keep them out of it. We got this. It's called war. And if you're in Bowling Green, you realize, hey, I don't know what my carbon dating is, what my half-life's going to be. But I'm pretty sure it's not going to be long. That's your lineage. Read, now we're in the stage of the War of Independence. Read it. We get our ass kicked forever. Washington's strategy is very simple. Keep the army intact. Keep the army in being. If we can do that, we can drag it out. And eventually, if we don't quit, we win. Have you heard that before? If we don't quit, we win. This is exactly what's going on in Georgia and in Michigan. What the volunteers, the Caroline Jefferson, the Garland Favoritas, and all of it, against a establishment that's working against you. Let's just lay the cards on the table. Why is Pulte a DNI? Why does John Solomon have to leave Real America's Voice from the show that I've tossed to? And I'm quite honored on this channel. Think about it. The great honor I have had that at noon every day for years, I would toss to the Charlie Kirk and the Charlie Kirk Show. And then at 6 o'clock, you got John Solomon and Amanda Head, John Solomon. And John Solomon's now in the White House working. And everybody's saying it's unbelievable what's happening. Why is that happening? Why does it have to be a guy like Pulte and John Solomon? Why John Solomon? Why Gateway Pundit and Fani and Patty McMurray and 100? The sacred 100, the honored 100 in Michigan. They gave up their time, hours and hours and hours to go through 155,000 frickin' ballots multiple times to find 26,000 that are illegal. When you've been told it's been rammed down your throat that you're a nutcase and you're fringe and this show's banned everywhere, deplatform, all of it. Like I give a tinker's damn about that. Because I don't, because the show just gets bigger and bigger, because you know why? A lot of people want to know what's going on. And in Georgia, this is years and years and years, and they indict people, and they try to get them on felonies, and they bankrupt them. Was the Republican Party, did they ever come in and have your back? Did they ever come in and say, no, we can do this together? No, they worked against you. They worked against you, working against President Trump. John Thune and this crap, give me a break. Oh, we know if we do this, we're going to do this, do this. He's got to be turfed out. You don't turf him out, you're going to lose the Senate. And this is even with Michigan and with Maine probably going our way. People just don't have the enthusiasm. They don't. Here's how I know they don't. The small dollar donations, which used to be voluminous everywhere, they've dried up like a creek during a drought. Why? The little guy's sitting there going, I've got to figure this thing out. Who's real and who's not real? Who's talk and who's action? Separate the wheat and the chaff, just like they did in the revolution. Do you think 90% of the people here in the continental United States were, hey, let's take England on. Let's take on the greatest, most powerful empire to that date in world history. Let's do it with the people to my left and right? No, it was not. It was a quite small number that fought, and there was a small number that supported. The rule of thumb was a third. A third. In New York City, which by September I think basically was gone. So they're saying there on the 9th of July, they're reading the Declaration of War against the guy with a big, huge gold, lead statue covered in gold, looking like Caesar, right, in a triumph, massive statue. They're looking up at that thing, and you're declaring war on that. And you look out there and you see 300 combat ships of the greatest navy in the history of the world, in world history. Some of its greater glory to come, but from Francis Drake and those guys, they were pretty damn good where they were about to have enormous, to beat Napoleon and have Nelson at Trafalgar in the Nile, take on the French Navy, take on the Spanish Navy, and kick their butts. That's what you're looking at. You got nothing. You don't even have any ships. You're a ragtag. You got a little Continental Army and a bunch of militia. You don't even know how to drill. The Poles hadn't even shown up. They haven't shown us up how to march, how to drill, because when the fire starts, you got to be high and tight when the volleys start hitting. And the British Army knew how to hit you with a volley. When you're sitting there hearing that, one thing you understand, my days are numbered. My days are numbered. So what am I doing this for? That is the DNA. That's the spirit of liberty. With all the happy talk and all the balloons, all the fireworks, that's the real thing. That's the thing itself, as I call it. The thing itself lives. That's what's happened in Michigan. With Patty McMurray and Fonnie and Jim Hoff and the team. That's what happened in Georgia. People who will not back down, who will never quit. And if we don't quit, we win.
The world is full of fables, from Big Pharma's lies to gender confusion, atheism, and the fake news media. Enough is enough. From Real America's Music comes the powerful new single, Fables by DVS 7.0 and Red Rayo. This bold anthem exposes the lies of the enemy while pointing people to the life-changing truth of Jesus Christ. Pre-save Fables right now by scanning the QR code on your screen or search Fables on iTunes. Let's make this song number one.
No playing games, get off the fence. Let the truth change your countenance. Freedom from chains and bondages that had you a slave too long. Yeah, the trials did seem mountainous, but in Christ I put my confidence. With a little faith you can move continents. Keep your mind on heaven and truth prominent. Hey, yeah.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
This is Rashad from Boston, Massachusetts, and I love Real America's Voice. It is the best place for real news and content. Much love.
Hi, this is Becky from the Florida Panhandle, and I love watching Real America's Voice for the programming, the hosts, and my Rad Chat family.
This is Tim King, also known as USS Malik, and I love Real America's Voices for its like-minded programming and the chat. Love you guys.
First, with respect to courtroom protocol, to maintain security and decorum, any individual that exits the courtroom during proceedings will not be permitted to re-enter until recess. After recess, all counsel are expected to take reasonable measures to safeguard confidential communication. Such measures may include the use of screen protections on electronic devices and care to avoid the inadvertent capture of privileged or private discussions by recording equipment or by those present in the courtroom. Second, the court will address the camera operator and the still photographer. If both of you could please approach the lectern. The court's purpose in this dialogue is to ensure clarity regarding the expectations governing today's proceedings. Could you both please state your roles for today's hearing?
My role is to capture pool photography, still photos. My role is for video in accordance with the court-to-court order.
And I apologize. Would you mind putting your names on the record?
Tess Crowley, Megan Thackeray with KSL.
Thank you. Have you both reviewed the court's standing decorum order?
Yes. Yes.
Do you understand the requirements set forth in that order as it applies to your activities today?
Yes.
Do you require additional time to review the order or to adjust equipment to ensure compliance?
No. No.
Do you anticipate any difficulty complying with the order?
No. No.
All right. Thank you both. Before we begin this morning, the court wishes to acknowledge the importance of the safety, dignity, and well-being of all those who are present or who may be present during these proceedings, including the parties, counsel, witnesses, court staff, and members of the public. The court is also mindful of its solemn obligation to protect and uphold the constitutional rights of Mr. Robinson and Ms. Kirk. In furtherance of those important interests, all persons attending these proceedings are reminded that portable electronic devices are not permitted in the courtroom or on the fourth floor. Cell phones are not permitted in the courtroom unless expressly authorized. Any unauthorized possession or use of a cell phone or electronic device in the courtroom may be addressed by the court. For those individuals who have a cell phone, I invite you to join me as I silence my cell phone to ensure that the proceedings today can proceed without distraction. The court also expects every person in attendance will be treated with the dignity and respect to which they are entitled. Consistent with this court's standing decorum order, all spectators shall remain quiet, civil, and orderly at all times. Spectators shall not engage in conduct that is distracting, disruptive, provocative, disrespectful, uncivil, or threatening in any manner. Spectators shall not make audible comments of any kind, shall not shake or nod their heads, and shall not make gestures or of other visible reactions during the hearing. Spectators shall also not wear or display pins, buttons, signs, clothing, photographs, or other items expressing support for or in opposition to any person connected with this case or expressing any position concerning the status of this case as a capital offense. The court appreciates the cooperation of all present in maintaining a courtroom environment that is safe, respectful, and orderly, and faithful to the rights and dignity of every person involved. All right. My understanding is the parties wish to address an issue before we get started. Is that correct?
We may.
Mr. Novak.
Thank you, Your Honor, and good morning. I passed up to the court after providing copies of it to counsel for the state and counsel for the media, a single piece of paper. Does the court have that?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Novak.
Thank you, Your Honor. So every morning this court has a colloquy with the camera operators about their ability to comply with this court's orders. And they acknowledge that they understand the order and that they can comply with it. And the court asks them if they have any problem with it, and they state to the court that they do not have a problem with it. We also spent many, many, many hours of court time addressing which exhibits will and will not be published through the electronic media. And this exhibit, the court ordered would not be published through the electronic media, and it was. And without belaboring the point, the court can imagine our concern that the media and the state who control this exhibit and the publication of this exhibit in the courtroom as per the court's orders failed to comply with this court's orders after all of the effort that we made and the court made to make sure that the court balanced everybody's rights, including the rights that we're concerned about, which are Mr. Robinson's. No doubt the counsel for the media and counsel for the state will say that it was a very, very brief mistake, that it was corrected as soon as they realized the error, but it's done. It's out there. It's photographed. I'm informed secondhand that if I want to buy this image and maybe even have it framed and put behind museum quality glass, I can do so and put it up in my office. Obviously, I'm not going to do that. But my point is, it doesn't matter how long the court's order was violated. When we live in an electronic world, it's done and it's permanent. And we just wanted the record to be clear that we're concerned that the court's orders have been violated, and they've been violated with respect to an order that was specifically designed to protect Mr. Robinson's right to a fair trial. And I don't want to belabor the point any further. I'm also not going to refer to the exhibit with any more specificity because it's not necessary.
Is there a requested remedy or potential sanction that you feel is warranted given the actions which you have outlined this morning?
I think that we would like to think, when I say we, I mean Mr. Robinson's counsel, about that. We have, as the court knows, repeatedly asked this court, moved this court, not to have electronic broadcast of this proceeding, of any of the proceedings, and specifically this proceeding. The court denied those motions and overruled our objections to the specific EMC requests. So I think it's a little premature, but I can represent to the court that we will suggest a remedy in advance of the next hearing.
Well, Mr. Novak, I appreciate that, but I would ask that if it is something that is concerning, that it be addressed immediately. So I'm not going to wait until this. I recognize and appreciate what you have described, and this was on my mind a lot last night as well.
Okay.
I don't want to sit on this, so I ask you respectfully to confer with your counsel and come up with that, because I want to address it. I agree. It is concerning, and it warrants examination and to be addressed immediately, especially as we have a little bit left of our preliminary hearing. So I want to give it the weight it is needed, and I don't disagree with you.
Then why don't we beg the court's indulgence? We don't need to empty the courtroom. We can go talk about what we think an appropriate measured sanction would be, and we can bring that suggestion back to the court in a few minutes.
All right. Well, before we do that, I want to turn to the state and to the media to address what you've addressed, and then obviously if there's a part two, then therefore.
And I appreciate the invitation, and I also appreciate the court's desire to address the consequences, if any, immediately.
Thank you, Mr.
I was
Novak.
not trying to delay it. I just think it's an issue which warrants some thought. The court has said it gave it some thought. We will have a suggestion very briefly.
Thank you. Turning to the state.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think at the outset it's important to recognize that everyone's doing their best here. The court is, I know the clerks are, I think the media is, we certainly are, and the defense is. This issue came up in the context of an examination of a witness. One exhibit was published before the exhibit at issue was also brought onto the screen. I explained what we were going to do, and then the exhibit was brought onto the screen. I reviewed the video last night. The camera captured this for approximately 2 seconds. The camera operator, I think acting in diligence and appropriateness, immediately panned as soon as she realized that there was a new exhibit on the screen. The court took it down. As soon as they realized that an exhibit was on the screen, I immediately instructed my paralegal to take it down, and it was. Defense, I think everyone involved here made quick and appropriate efforts as soon as they realized a mistake had been made to remedy and mitigate that issue. As I explained what I was what we were going to do, defense counsel did not object as that happened. And the reason I bring that up is because of the requirement for timely objections. Moreover, I do want to say this exhibit was read into the record. It was allowed to be read into the record earlier. It is also in an earlier pleading, which is the information. This portion of that exhibit, I understand, is in the information. And it is largely cumulative of Exhibit 16 and 16.1, which were previously admitted into evidence and published to the media. Finally, we are going to be dealing with a lot of publicity when it comes to media coverage, and I think that's really where the remedy is going to be addressed. I understand there may be a remedy that can be fashioned today to prevent this kind of thing going forward or going on in the future in this hearing, but I think ultimately that's where this will be addressed. Any other questions from me, Your Honor?
Well, not at this time. I will afford you the opportunity, obviously, to respond when defense comes back. I want to weigh this and taking in consideration, and I find your representations to be accurate as to what occurred. I believe that I noticed it and asked for it to be taken down because I have a live stream on my screen for that very purpose. And the sequence, I believe I made note, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. It's been a long 4 past days, but that's the only addition that I find to the representation. And certainly, Mr. Novak, feel free to correct it if you believe the sequence was any different. I just want to make sure a clear record is being made of what happened in order for whatever happens next to be appropriate and proportional to the actions that occurred.
No, and that's consistent with my memory, and I also reviewed the video, the live stream as well, in preparation for this issue today. So that's exactly what I think happened. From my perspective, examining the witness, I did not have a view of what was being published to the public and the media, and so I think the court immediately, as soon as it recognized that, brought that to everyone's attention.
Thank you, Mr. McBride. To the media.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here to speak on behalf of the media. I think our understanding of what happened is consistent with what both the defense and the state have said here. So I don't want to belabor that point. But here's how I understand them. There's 2 exhibits at issue. Those exhibits were used yesterday in part because the juxtaposition of those 2 exhibits might have provided some sort of benefit to the court. The first of those exhibits was asked to be published through all 3 of the court's phases. The court said it will be admitted into evidence, be shown in the courtroom, it will not be shown on the cameras. That happened about 3 hours into the hearing. That all went smoothly and well. That operated exactly as it is intended to. That requires the participation of everyone, the court, the defense, the state, media, camera operator, all to do that well. Later in the day, when in the video I reviewed, this was about 5 hours into the runtime yesterday. The second exhibit that was going to be compared side by side was introduced. That also went through that 3-step process. In that case, the court said that could be admitted into evidence, shown to the court, and then also shown on the cameras. So it was put on the courtroom cameras. At that point, there was what I think is a useful practice by the camera operator to wait a beat, because sometimes mistakes do happen, right? In that case, though, that was authorized. So the camera then panned to the screen, which is set up specifically for the camera operator to be able to capture that. Examination on that exhibit began. Then, because the examination seemed to call for that juxtaposition, without much warning for anyone involved, the previous exhibit that was intended to be juxtaposed was placed on the screen. From, I think, a observer's view who didn't know where the testimony was going without warning. The camera operator, I think quite astutely, within seconds, recognized this is a different exhibit, and recalling the court's prior order, recognized I should pan off, and did within seconds. I think at the time that was happening, the court also caught that and said, let's not do that. Now, and that was the end of it. I think the 2 seconds is about right. I don't want to minimize that. I understand the point that Mr. Novak is making. We are operating in some ways on high wire. And we are trying to place as many nets as we can, and all the parties are working together to try to do that. But in the age in which we live, one of the challenges is that sometimes when something like that is placed on a live stream, someone can screenshot it, and like Mr. Novak said, if they want to put that for sale on the internet, then they can. That's why working together to ensure that even small mistakes like that don't happen is critical. And the media has the media coalition that are given the opportunity and the benefit of being able to be here to run cameras and to take photographs have complete buy-in on that point. There are, of course, people out there watching a live stream that are not part of our coalition that we can't control, and that's why it's so important that we get these pieces right. I do want, without going too far into the evidence, to note not only that several lines of this exhibit are available publicly in the information, but that the full text, every word of that exhibit is contained in a search warrant, in this case, that was initially filed on September 17th. This is in the 4th District, but in a different court. Was held for 6 months, as search warrants often are, but then on March 16th, March 17th, was released in full. On page 7 of that search warrant is the full text of this exhibit. I don't want to suggest that anybody gets the right to say, well, I think it's public. The court has said don't show it in the screen, but since I think it is, we'll just come back later on and tell the court it's not a big deal because it's already public. That's not how it works. If we say we think it's in the public, the court says, I understand that, but I'm going to make an order. That order should be adhered to. But I do, for the purposes of prejudice, for potential remedy, for the court's concern and the court's sleepless nights, I do want the court to know that as well. And members of our coalition have pointed out to me as we've talked about this, while we take this very seriously, it is true in this case that the full text of that, not the image of the exhibit itself, but the full text is already in the public sphere, has been reported on, and is out there. I only want to reinforce, to close, the recognition that the media, our coalition, I, as an attorney for that coalition, have an obligation to make sure that mistakes don't get made. And in this case, even though I believe that the camera operator didn't act in violation of the court's decorum order, didn't do something that was forbidden by that there was an order that said, don't publish this exhibit. And because it flashed on the screen when the camera operator was filming that screen, that did happen. The media is fully bought in. I, as one of the attorneys and the other attorneys for the media coalition, are fully bought in on a goal to make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen. Of course, I understand Mr. Novak and the defense's need to make a record and make an objection, and I also recognize and appreciate and understand the court's role in trying to make sure it imposes whatever sort of direction, caution, sanction, response that it believes is needed to make sure that its orders are recognized and adhered to. And I want the court to know that we will understand that and will comply with whatever it is that the court orders.
Thank you. Anything further before we break? Mr. Novak?
We don't need a break.
Okay. Well,
the court wants a break.
I want to review this. I'm sure there is a stream out there. I want to look at it again in order to appreciate the full effect and exposure. I remember it, but given the nature of this and trying to weigh the constitutional rights of all parties, I want to be thorough and look at it exactly. So as we move forward, as I evaluate what's being requested by the parties, that I am at the level of knowledge, and because for what it is, it was on screen. I want to look at it, how long, what exactly was on screen, and in order to be at the point of saying, okay, I fully understand. I mean, I was here, I saw it, I noticed it on the screen, but again, I want to take that extra 2 minutes to review that.
I'm not suggesting that we rush through this at all. I just wanted the court to understand that our request for the remedy and the sanction, we are prepared to share that with the court, but we can certainly wait until the court has had an opportunity to review whatever the court thinks it needs to review. The permanence of this violation of the court order is a different issue from how long it took to correct the violation. It's a permanent consequence. In other words, that image is out there forever and ever in violation of the court's order, no matter what actions the court, the state, and the media took to remedy it, because that's the technological world we live in. So that's my response, if I may, to the arguments. But we can hold our suggestion until the court's ready for it.
All right. If the parties feel it'd be helpful to confer while the court is reviewing it, you may, just so that if you choose to, I encourage it. If you don't, I respect that. A court's going to take about 5 minutes. Again, I just want to review it, to be brought up to full speed and just to have it freshly in my mind.
I'm going to make one more point, if I may, and that is this is not the first time that this has happened. We had earlier proceedings in this case where the cameras depicted images inside the courtroom that the court had prohibited, and the court imposed certain consequences on the media as a result of that. And so that's just something to keep in mind, in my opinion. Thank you.
All right, before the court takes a 5-minute recess and to review this, does any party need the benefit of the record based off the dialogue between me and Mr. Novak? All right, not seeing any party respond. The court's in recess. We'll come back at 9:45. Court is in a brief recess.
Donald Trump's desperation to silence voters and their deeply unpopular views of his presidency has hit an alarming and dangerous new low, with a new report about how Trump's MAGA media allies appear to be laying the groundwork for Trump to take control of this fall's midterm elections. Media Matters writes this. Quote, right-wing media figures such as Steve Bannon, John Solomon, and Cleta Mitchell appear to be weaving together a narrative about interference by China in U.S. elections to justify a national emergency to curtail voting rights. Here's an alarming sample of that. Watch.
If they can't cheat, they can't win, correct? You agree with that?
100%.
The reason he ain't there and Pulte is to get to the bottom of the 2020 stolen election.
Stop talking about the SAFE Act and do a national security emergency for elections.
But also Pulte, this is why they're trying to stop him at DNI. Why the firestorm to stop him and to shut down Solomon? Because if you want to have an executive order that could withstand an immediate court challenge and be overturned, you have to lay out a pretty definitive predicate for that.
And you heard the name there a few times, Bill Pulte, suggesting that Trump's newly installed acting DNI is heavily involved in this plan. Media Matters writes this, quote, the main players here come not only from the fever swamp backwaters of MAGA media, but also from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence and the White House. How MAGA media is laying the groundwork for it just by having the discourse about it.
Yeah, and look, I mean, we should also keep in mind here that it's not, the people that were outside trying to overturn the 2020 election are now inside the administration actively helping to disrupt and sort of thwart it. So a lot of this is through the lens of not just what they're saying on the outside, but how it's working in tandem with these official positions. So people on the outside are now running a task force, as you noted, Bill Pulte, who is now the DNI, and the storytellers have kind of signaled what he's there to do, which is to help sort of be part of this sort of three-part sequence. One is to manufacture a predicate, sort of create the evidence. They're not going to try to find it. They're going to manufacture something. And the thing that they seem to be centering around is this idea that China interfered in the 2020 election, and they're going to sort of uncover by declassifying a whole bunch of what is supposed intelligence that reinforces and improves that. So that's the first thing, manufacture the predicate. The second then would be to use that to declare a national emergency And then the third part of it is to impose by decree what they haven't been able to get passed legislatively, or what has been sort of pushed back in the course of these with these executive orders. So that is parts of the SAVE Act, and to try to further thwart and disrupt the election. And that's it. And they are echoing it on the outside. They're signaling all of what they're planning to do, and they're beginning to move the machinery into official parts of government to actually execute it.
Put it this way, Jack Smith is not someone prone to hyperbole. And exactly 24 hours and 10 minutes ago on this program, on this station, he told Nicole Wallace that he is very concerned about the midterm elections and the integrity of those elections, not because of external threats, but because the internal apparatus of our government is actually, as Angelo just said, participating in laying the predicate for creating those fears. And I want to be very clear about one legal aspect of this, Eamon, which is to say, you just saying that there's an emergency is not some talismanic thing that you can wave that invokes all sorts of other powers. There are emergency powers and statutes that grant emergency powers, but they are specific statutes. So there's a National Emergencies Act. It does not mention elections. There's IEPA. That's the statute that Donald Trump tried to use to impose the global tariffs. And when the Supreme Court considered that, it noted the word tariffs isn't in there, the word tax isn't in there. Well, you know what else isn't in there? Elections, which is to say that in order to invoke emergency powers, you need to have congressional statutory authorization. So to Angelo's point, forming the predicate, what he referred to as step one, is absolutely their plan. The step two is where they are legally flawed, even beyond getting to step three. But to your point, what they're trying to do will not be legal and will not be something that the law authorizes, but the executive can almost always outrun the courts. That's the problem. So they can succeed in this even if they fail legally by creating the fear, by taking the action, and then it's almost too late.
And letting the courts catch up. I mean, they have the ability. They have the ability to shape their reality on the ground, and letting the courts play catch up through the various proceedings.
They can outrun the law and then turn around and say, well, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah, absolutely. Angelo, the reporting mentions that Bannon's podcast colleague, John Solomon, who NBC News reports is part of a team gathering thousands of intel documents to give Trump an opportunity to amplify new accusations about past elections. And we're seeing this dangerously play out in a state like Georgia as well. What do we know about the relationship between the White House and the ODNI and podcasters like John Solomon?
I mean, that's the question here, right? Because let's keep in mind, they've been signaling what Bill Pulte is there to do, which is to get to the bottom of this, to be a participant in this. What Solomon's task force is supposedly designed to do is to declassify documents, to sort of uncover intelligence that proves that the 2020 election was stolen or manipulated by China, in particular, is what they seem to be settling on. And so some things happened in the last 24 hours from the DNI where they started to fire career intelligence officials, analysts, for withholding information. Now, what information are they claiming that they've been withholding? We have no idea. They haven't said anything about it. But it certainly lines up with the types of activities that Solomon is designed to get to the bottom of or help expose. The very people that would be identifying this internally or saying, hey, there's no evidence to back this up, are the types of people that they've been purging from the DNI's office and the intelligence community in the last 24 hours. So this is part of the synergy. And the last thing I'll just note, because this is the part that I find really revealing. There was a qualified director of national intelligence that was appointed by Trump, and his nomination was ultimately withheld to get confirmed so that he could put this acting DNI in place, Bill Pulte, whose only qualification seems to be that he knows how to weaponize government offices for political purposes. And Bannon has been saying all along that he's their guy to help execute this. So that there's an intense synergy here where the storytelling, the media apparatus, is beginning to sync up with these government entities. Something that was, a podcasting is now operating under a presidential seal. And that's it. They're almost one and the same.
Legally, Bill Pulte has a lot of power as an acting DNI and not necessarily a ton of accountability. So to Angelo's point and to their point, Melissa was pointing out that because of the way the process works with DNI, he can effectively be acting for as long as they need him, and certainly can be acting through the midterms. But every lawyer learns one thing in their first year of law school in the constitutional law class. Angelo certainly learned this. That is, in April of 1952, Harry Truman tried to seize the steel mills. And what was his basis? Well, the Korean War and a pending strike that could have yielded a serious shortage of steel, serious national security implications. What did the court say? Justice Jackson wrote an opinion, one of the most famous opinions for evaluating presidential exercises of power. That there are three categories, a sliding scale, and when the president is acting inconsistently with the express will of Congress, by the way, Congress has repeatedly, as you know, rejected the Save America Act. That's what they're trying to do by using emergency powers. That is where presidential power is at its lowest ebb. So, is it possible they can outrun the courts? Yes. But will it be illegal and unconstitutional in every way if they try? Yes. And so we don't want to give up hope that the courts and the people can stop.
Let me show you how to take your outdated, unsafe bathroom from this to this in a
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
Hi, my name is Tracy Elk with Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Hey y'all, it's Nancy from Texas. Real America's Voice gives us truth, not propaganda, and we need that. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because they have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
Lazar Garcianovich here from Japan. Love Real America's Voice, real news, honest views, and love seeing everyone there. God bless America.
Today is the final day for the preliminary hearing that will decide if Tyler Robinson will stand trial. He is the man accused of shooting and killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk last year. Yesterday, prosecutors played a taped interview with Robinson's former roommate, who said that Robinson admitted to the murder to him.
Prosecution, and he introduced himself in this sworn interview, and he said that they had met in about 2023 and they became roommates. They didn't know each other, but he said in 2 to 3 months they started dating, and so they had known each other for about 2 years. And he said on the morning of what is now known as the shooting that Tyler Robinson said he had to get going very early to work. 4 or 5 a.m. is when he left. And remember, they live in St. George. This was in Orem, so it was over 4-hour drive. He also said that he didn't talk to him until 11 p.m. that night, but the next morning is when they arrived back. He arrived back at the home, and that's when he actually saw him. That would be the 11th. He describes what he heard and what he saw from Tyler Robinson when he arrived back to their apartment. Watch.
Did you and he ever talk about politics?
He did more than me. I don't really keep up with politics very much. He'd usually talk about stuff he heard on the radio on his drive to work in like their work car, since it sounds like their whole crew went in the same car most of the time. But I wouldn't say super consistently, because it wasn't a topic I really contributed much on.
What about Charlie Kirk? Did you ever talk about Charlie Kirk?
I personally had never heard him talk about Charlie Kirk before specifically.
Okay. How about political issues? So did you ever talk about gender identity issues and LGBTQ rights?
No, not really. Usually if he did talk about politics stuff, it was relating to Trump or current policies being issued or voted on, I think.
So that right there, that's interesting. He never spoke about Charlie Kirk. Now, we've got some text that we want to show you, because they texted a lot right after the shooting happened. He said, "You weren't the one who did this, right?" "I am. I'm sorry." "Why did I do it?" "Yeah. Well, I'd had enough of this hatred. Some hate cannot be negotiated out." Now, when he got back to the apartment on the 11th, what Lance Twiggs, who said that was his name, he said that he was nervous. Tyler Robinson, he was walking around the apartment. He started to cry. He said he didn't know why he did this, and he said he wished he hadn't done this. But this is there was no cross-examination of, you can't cross-examine a recorded statement, but there was a witness on the stand too. The defense didn't touch it. And this is very challenging, because this is someone who is very close to Tyler Robinson, who has turned and become a prosecution witness.
Hello, War Room Posse. Hey, I can't be with you the next few days, so I wanted to get on here and tell you I'm going to extend that sale that only comes once every 250 years, the Made in the USA sale. That's right, our premium My Pillows, king size only $19.98, lowest price in history. Queen size $18.98, standard $14.98. We have our My Pillow mattresses, the best mattresses you'll ever sleep on, 50% off. And by the way, the whole order ships for free right to your front door. Mattress toppers as low as $99.98. Then we have the bolster pillows, the body pillows, the go anywhere pillows, all of it on sale. Go to mypillow.com/war room. You're going to see another sale that collides with that, the Mega 2 sale. And then you're going to find the Giza Dream Sheets as low as $29.98. Our 6-piece My Towel sets, $39.98. You have kitchen towel sets on sale. You have everything for the kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, everywhere. Promo code WARROOM, free shipping on your entire order. You guys call 800-873-1062. Use the best promo code in history, promo code WARROOM.
These United States, keep her in your holy protection. Our first president prayed, cultivate the hearts of the people to unite in the faith and form a bond of brotherly love to where no man
You know what nobody tells you about the assets in your IRA or 401k? For almost all Americans,
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions,